Hi there, Sue Viskovich here with another Moments with Sue, and I am back a year later since the last time we did this with the wonderful Eleanor Dartnall. Thank you for joining us.
Like a year, does it?
It doesn't, it's gone by like that. Now, we are today having the very difficult decision of selecting the winner for the Female Excellence in Advice Awards. And Eleanor, I love the piece that you've just put out. Eleanor's just starting to release a series of articles about emotional intelligence in advice. And you were telling me an incredible story that I would love you to share with us.
Right, well it comes down to, I see emotional intelligence when it's applied to an advisor sitting in front of a client, perhaps a little differently than the textbooks we might read about this particular topic. And it's a whole range of things. It's empathising with the client, it's really listening to what they say. But the case study I just want to talk about is about hearing what isn't said. So very recently, I had a family come in. It was an estate planning matter, and the mother had some very difficult decisions to make. She had already given her instructions for her will to be drafted. I had seen the draft and asked if I could speak to this family. Not only the mother who is giving the instructions, but asked her to bring in her two daughters who are going to be the executors, if she wouldn't mind discussing the contents of her will. She was delighted to do that. So this is a family that it was evident to me in terms of the way the will draft had been done that there were some family issues. So this family is made up of a widow in her 70s with a great deal of money, which comes from decades of extraordinarily hard work, and that has been gifted to only 3 of her 4 children. So we talked a bit about why one of them has been excluded, and yes, there are some serious issues there in the background. However, we need to sit down and talk about the fact that that one now adult child will make a claim on this estate. So the two daughters are there, they're all now in their 40s, and in talking about what the actual assets were, I found that none of the 4 children have a relationship any longer with their spouses. They're all divorced. So there's a lot of pain in this family and they are struggling. The eldest one has been renting a property from her mother, an investment property, for 14 years. There is a son who has some real problems. He's also living in a unit owned by the mother. So I'm listening to their story and beginning to realise that the path that we need to take to resolve some of their issues, and the other daughters are really not saying anything. So I just turned to her and said, how do you feel about the fact that your sister's renting a home owned by your mother? And she just looked at me, and then she didn't break down, but she said, it bothers me. I really feel as though she's got an advantage. And she's never voiced that. She's harboured that feeling for 14 years.
Wow. And you picked that up because you were speaking and then you were feeling the body language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You do feel it, even if it isn't, no, I'm browned off about this expression on her face. It was just a feeling that beside me was somebody who really needed to say something.
Yeah.
And the mother was quite shocked. I looked at the mother and she was quite shocked because she had never voiced that she feels as though her older sisters had a benefit that she's never had.
And I love your answer.
Well, I asked that, I thought, well, we really need to explore this and deal with it. I don't want her to leave the meeting with me still feeling that emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I turned to the eldest daughter and said, how much rent do you pay for this house? And she said $650 a week. So I turned to the one that really obviously is feeling a bit left out. That is a commercial rental rate for the town that she's living in. And while she's living in that and keeping it in very good condition, which she is, I know because I've been there, the house is increasing in value and one day you're going to inherit a quarter of that. She stopped and thought about that and her shoulders dropped. And she said, I'd never thought of it like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is 3 women who actually, because of some of these unspoken tensions, really haven't had much to do with one another.
Yeah.
So they left my office and they all went home and one cooked dinner for the other 2. Now that apparently hadn't happened in years.
Wow.
So it's important
that
we take on board everybody that's in that room and it isn't just about taking down data and coming up with solutions.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that is so critical, an element of giving advice.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's financial advice, but the impact of it is so broad-reaching, and so when, as an advisor, you can switch on all of your senses during those meetings, go with your gut. Yes, you've got to collect data from the client, but that does not define who the client is.
No.
And your advice will be far more powerful and have such a greater impact when you look beyond just the numbers and really understand the people that you're dealing with and rely upon those other senses that will kick in for you.
And you know, most of the time I find that while they've asked for an appointment to get investment advice, the meeting isn't about the money.
Absolutely.
It just isn't.
Yeah, and as the advisor, you can't shy away from that, because that's where you make real breakthroughs for people and really help them when you do address the difficult conversations with people. Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much, Eleanor.
An absolute
That's
pleasure.
another Moment with Sue and Eleanor.